Entitled sister-in-law stole our baby name. Now she regrets it. Hey y'all, long-time lurker and all that. This is a throwaway account. To cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We are currently 33 respectively now and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. My wife has a younger half-sister that she's been low contact with for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic, and also her mother's golden child. We refused to let her or my mother-in-law in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of years ago.
The fuck?
The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safety deposit box as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up on trying to conceive when it suddenly happened, and we were ecstatic. After we found out we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it. So that's the name we settled on. But we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in the mess. My sister-in-law was pregnant too, and was months further along than my wife and also having a boy. She decided to claim my grandfather's name for her own son, and not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her pissed over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it. Which, she was sort of right. There was nothing we could do about it legally, as it's not a crime to steal planned baby names. We realized that drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted, and she thought that by taking the name for herself, we'd not be able to use it. I laughed and told her that while what she was doing was dirty and underhanded, we would keep our chosen name, and she could just deal with it whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable dick for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said she claimed nothing, and since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call, he threatened me by saying I'd be sorry if we didn't change the name. Then he hung up before I could respond. Months later, sister-in-law has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth, both because of the pandemic and because we simply didn't care to be there. Sister-in-law called us wanting congratulations, but we told her we simply didn't care, and that if she was still insisting we change our baby's name, then she'd be in for some big disappointment because we were not. Sister-in-law demanded I put my wife on the phone, but it was already on speaker, and my wife spoke up and said she agrees with me entirely. We weren't changing the name. Sister-in-law hung up on us, but soon started sending emails with text walls of names, even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that's why we were not changing it. She shut up, and we didn't hear from her again till after our son was born. 2 months later, we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we'd intended. Well, no surprise, my sister-in-law called us a few days later, after the birth, to scream in our ears that we copied her son's name. I pointed out she was the real copycat since she had no familial ties with the name as we did. And anyone who looks at our family tree could see that. Then my wife spoke and said after the attempted theft of her grandmother's jewelry, she no longer considered sister-in-law her sister, and would have nothing to do with her new nephew either. For months, we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family. Half were on our side after finding out the whole story, the other half were not. And sister-in-law's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to, quote, make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was, but I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6'1" and well-built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He, on the other hand, was very skinny and about 5'6", with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house has cameras and to get off my property and never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and drove off in his beat-up old car. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making sister-in-law's baby daddy feel emasculated. I didn't even threaten the man, just told him to leave and not come back, and if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded we change our son's name as, quote, he's so young, there's still plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and told them that they were bonkers to still think that they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try to get one over on us. I said sister-in-law didn't even name her son out of love, but out of spite, just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. Then my wife called them both out on the way she was treated growing up, how entitled sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind, and she wants nothing from them and they won't have anything from us. That left sister-in-law sobbing, and my mother-in-law called me a royal bastard before hanging up on the phone. That was no contact again for a little while till sister-in-law called us again sometime later to bitterly tell us we'd won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight and he left. He was apparently very sore that sister-in-law didn't let him even give their son a middle name from his family. And he said he was sick of the bullshit and wanted his son named after him and not some guy he wasn't even related to. Sister-in-law finally caved and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost sister-in-law around $500 or so she claims. Sister-in-law then demanded we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as now she's going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said this would have never happened if she hadn't stolen our baby name to begin with, and we didn't owe her anything. Since then, we've been no contact with sister-in-law and mother-in-law, but my father-in-law, who's a very nice man and divorced from mother-in-law for obvious reasons, would come by often and loves his grandson. From what he and the other relatives told us, the situation between sister-in-law and her baby daddy was pretty tumultuous. But we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus.
Oh my God, the level of delusion and the audacity. And just like, I love how they stayed strong. They're just like, oh, well, I guess we're going to have cousins with the same name.
Doesn't matter because we don't even talk to you, actually.
Yeah.
It's going to bother you more than it does us.
We're low contact with you. So our cousins are never going to hang out. It's not really going to be an issue. So have fun naming your kid after somebody who's not related to you at all.
Am I the asshole for telling my dad's wife she screwed her kids out of grandparents? So my 20 female dad is with his affair partner, Laura. He and Laura have a kid, Lucy, 13 female. Lucy was conceived after my dad and Laura were already together for a while. Her birth was not the reason my parents split, in case anyone's wondering. But obviously my dad's family knew about the affair once my parents split, and they banned Laura from ever attending family events. To this day, the only people on that side of the family that have met her are me and one cousin who came to stay with me at my dad's for a few days one time. My grandparents told dad they'd happily be active in Lucy's life, but it would have to be dad that facilitated the relationship, meaning he'd have to bring her to see them alone. Laura said no. I guess she thought eventually she'd force herself into the family through Lucy. But all it did was mean no one ever met Lucy. My dad would take me to my grandparents' or aunt's place without Laura and Lucy, and that was just how it went. Well, it recently came up that my grandparents were giving me money towards buying an apartment when I graduate, which set Laura off. She's always been bitter that my grandparents financed my schooling, but my dad paid for university. She was passive-aggressively grumbling at the dinner table that this is why she felt we could have asked them to pay for my university, and that it would have been nice if Lucy got to have grandparents, but some people are petty and cruel. I looked at my dad like, are we really playing this game? But he didn't say anything. And then Laura turns to Lucy and goes, you should know none of this is your fault. Life isn't fair, and you got the short end of the stick with certain family members. So I just said, yeah, the short end of the stick family member is you, Laura. Lucy could have had the same relationship with my grandparents that I do. But you were so selfish that you screwed your own kid out of that. Laura argued that no one who hated her could have a relationship with her daughter. So I was like, well, what are you mad about then? That your principles ended up sabotaging your kid? Maybe that's on you. At this point, my dad was giving me a death stare, so I just went back to my food. Laura sent me a text later that night about how much she didn't appreciate me saying that in front of her child, and that it was her prerogative how she managed the relationship. She also said my dad's family are cruel and vindictive. I didn't reply, and honestly the only reason I don't have her blocked is in case my dad is taken ill suddenly. But now my dad is saying that it caused issues at home because Lucy is finally grasping that Laura is the one who wouldn't allow her to have a relationship with dad's side, and is now apparently pretty mad about it. He's saying the way I went at Laura was inappropriate in front of the child, and that Lucy shouldn't have heard all of that. But I think she only heard it because her mother was retconning reality. I didn't mean to cause an issue between Lucy and Laura, but honestly, I do feel like Laura was asking for it by acting like an idiot in front of someone who knew the whole story. Okay, so edit. Just to clarify, no, my dad's family didn't immediately forgive him. For a long time, they only invited him to things if he brought me during his custody time. But time heals most things. They all still think he's a prick, but honestly, I'm sure they've thought that before. No, they haven't totally cut him out because we're just not that kind of family. But Laura was never a part to start with, so it's way easier to never make her acquaintance than to cut out your blood relative that you've known for 40 years. I think that's fairly obvious. 2, I'm not mad that Laura set the boundaries she did, and I'm not mad my parents got divorced. I got mad that Laura set a totally fair boundary that my dad went along with, not saying he's blameless, but he's just not the one who's actively complaining, and then tried to pretend that the consequences of said boundary shouldn't have happened. If you don't want your kid around people who don't like you, understandable, why are you whining that they're not around your kid?